Zambia's President Edgar Lungu edges towards victory in an election marred by violence and accusations of vote rigging. Could a new video solve the mystery of the Chibok schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram in 2014? And the Olympic spirit at your fingertips. Rio 2016's hottest nail art trends. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Now, Zambian President Edgar Lungu of the ruling Patriotic Front Party has been re-elected Monday in a tight battle with his chief rival Hakainde Hichilema. The Election Commission of Zambia announced that Lungu won 50.35% of the vote against 47.63% for Hichilema. Now, the winner needed over 50% of the votes to avoid a runoff election. While for Lungu's supporters, it was celebration soon after the announcement. Hichilema's United Party for the National Development accused electoral officials of colluding in favor of Lungu since vote counting started on Thursday night. United Party officials say they will appeal the results at the Constitutional Court. UP lawyer Jack Mwimbu says, quote, "We have evidence to the effect that the votes for Hakainde Hichilema have been deliberately reduced in collusion with the Electoral Commission of Zambia." Now, for more on the Zambian presidential election, let's go to Anita Powell, who is standing by live via Skype in Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello, Anita.
Hi, Vincent.
Now, first, was this a surprising kind of result?
Sadly, Vincent, it wasn't. Analysts had long predicted a very tight race between the two men. And as you may recall, in 2015, they ran against each other in a snap election. And Hichilema narrowly lost to Lungu by about 27,000 votes. So this is kind of a repeat of that.
Now, there are also predictions of violence. Why is that the case?
So we had a particularly violent political campaign with violence between supporters of Lungu and Hichilema. And so analysts said, well, we don't want to predict the winner, but we are concerned and we're willing to predict that there might be violence. And these allegations of rigging do not help that.
For sure. Sometimes it's just inciting people. Now, what are the issues really that have been, the issues around this election?
Well, you might not be surprised to hear it's all about the economy. As you know, Zambia has been hit with the 1-2 punch of falling copper prices and rising food prices. So Zambians really feel like they're in a pinch. And so they were voting a lot with their wallets in this election. Hichilema was voting to bring in lots of economic reforms, and Lungu was voting was running to be more of a continuity candidate. But it was really primarily about the economy.
And we know this wasn't just a presidential election. There were other elections. Any results that we know by now?
Well, so far the Election Commission hasn't posted complete results from the other ballots in this election, and that was provincial elections, national representative elections, and local elections, and a very important constitutional referendum.
Tell us a little bit about this referendum. What was it about?
That's a great question, and I wonder how many Zambians would be able to answer that question in a way that we'd all understand. Here's the thing. It's a referendum to change some of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, to change some of the procedures, but one of the observers, the Commonwealth, noted that they felt that people were not sufficiently educated on what this referendum was about. It is hard to understand. I'm not sure I completely understand it. And they're saying maybe Zambians didn't either. And so we could see a result, but we're not sure what it could mean.
It was kind of funny. It's like people want to understand a little more after the referendum. Anita, thank you very much, as always. Viewers, Anita Powell reporting live from Johannesburg via Skype. Now, from Southern Africa to West Africa, now in Nigeria, where the government says it is reaching out to the Boko Haram terrorist group after a new video surfaced online Sunday showing as many as 50 of the Chibok schoolgirls who were kidnapped in 2014. The video posted on social media shows a masked man wearing military camouflage with girls with veils sitting on the ground, with some standing in the background. In the 11-minute video, one of the abducted girls pleads in the video for the government to release detained Boko Haram militants so the girls can be freed.
What I want to tell my parents and the federal government is that the federal government should please release Boko Haram members in custody of security agents so they too can be released. Military jets has killed some of the girls.
About 218 of the 276 girls kidnapped from a remote school in northeastern Nigeria remain missing, despite more than 2 years of efforts by the Nigerian government to find them and worldwide outrage at the abduction. The video was the latest released by embattled Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau, who in early August denied claims that he has been replaced as the leader of the extremist group. The parents of one of the Chibok girls saw the first proof their daughter was alive on Sunday. The mother, Esther Yakubu, attended a regular protest organized by the Bring Back Our Girls campaign in Abuja, where attendees watched a video of her daughter Dorcas begging Nigerian government to exchange detained militants for the freedom of the remaining missing girls.
They have not even done anything. So something of satisfaction haven't even arisen because they have not done anything. If they are doing something, they have rescued one. But all the girls that have been rescued, they rescued themselves. No any government that rescued them, no any army that rescued them.
The government came under increased pressure from parents and Bring Back Our Girls campaigners after the May escape of one young woman, a proof of life that they said should encourage the military and government to redouble rescue efforts. Through last year, the Nigerian military announced the rescue of hundreds of people who had been kidnapped by Boko Haram, but despite occasional reports to the contrary, the Chibok girls were not among them. More than 20,000 people have been killed during a 7-year Islamic uprising that has spread from Nigeria to neighboring countries and driven 2.2 million people from their homes. Well, now for the latest on the new Chibok girls video, journalist Chika Udua joins me on the phone from Abuja. Good evening, Chika. Now,
good evening. Thank you so much.
Yes, now we started by saying that the government says it's going to reach out to Boko Haram. Way back in July, the government said it's going to reach out to Boko Haram. Has there been any evidence whatsoever that there has been any meeting or some form of contact between government and Boko Haram?
There has been absolutely no evidence, and we've heard this before. Last year, the president did say that he's open to negotiations. And, of course, as you mentioned, he's mentioned this earlier again this year. But in the video that we did see last night, Boko Haram confirmed that they have not been approached by the government, that they have been reaching out to journalists instead to try to reach some type of agreement with the government to arrange a prisoner swap. So as of now, there has been no evidence whatsoever that the government is reaching out to these extremists in northeastern Nigeria.
Now, in video, we are seeing the mother. We've seen the girl who was speaking in the video. We've seen the mother. You are actually with the mother and the father right now. Can you tell us a little bit what they're telling you?
Well, right now, it's kind of mixed emotions where they're feeling turmoil. They're feeling some relief. There's some confusion. Of course, they're all happy that, the daughters are still alive. And, of course, for their own daughter to have been the one who spoke out in the video means a lot. It says a lot. Perhaps this girl was quite outspoken, very articulate. She was 15 years old when she was abducted, so her parents haven't seen her in 2 years. And so, of course, this is somewhat of just a mix of emotions, as I mentioned, but at the end of the day, it shows that their daughter is still alive. And the mother has been extremely active in the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. So all of her prayers, all of her activism to her, this is a sign that it's actually been fruitful. But the story will not end until her daughter is back in her arms.
We know that during the Jonathan government, people lost hope, almost lost hope. There was kind of hope again when Mr. Buhari won the election. What are people saying at the moment?
Well, actually, the parents are saying that they're not getting they're not seeing a lot of political will from this administration to actually return the girls. Of course, we know that earlier this year, the Bring Back Our Girls campaigners, including Esther Yakubu and her husband, did walk to meet the president, but he refused to meet them until they demanded to do so. And so they're saying that they don't see any type of willingness from Buhari to actually bring the girls back, or even to inform the parents on the update of the search. There's been no type of communication between the public and the government on what exactly is happening as far as progress being made to, first of all, find the girls and to rescue them. the president himself admitted that he has no information as to the whereabouts of the girls. So that says a lot, just that statement alone.
Wow, really, really frustrating. Well, Chika, thank you very much for your reporting.
Thank you.
That's Chika Udua reporting from Abuja in Nigeria. Now, after a week in which he charged U.S. President Barack Obama and Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton were the founders of the Islamic State extremist group, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is expected this week to outline his plans to address international terrorism. VOA's Jeff Custer reports from Washington.
In campaign appearances and interviews last week, Donald Trump repeated the claim that, because of his policies, President Barack Obama and his then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton created the Islamic State group.
I've been saying that Barack Obama is the founder. Barack Obama, number one, is incompetent. And number two, remember this, number two, he is the founder in a true sense.
Trump later said he was being sarcastic when he made the comments, but still maintained Obama's policies helped the extremist group to grow in strength. The Trump campaign says the Republican Party nominee on Monday will outline his plans to fight IS militants in the Middle East. Speaking Sunday on ABC Television's This Week program, Trump supporter U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions gave a preview of that speech.
He's going to talk about how we restore credibility with our allies and friends in that region who also are hostile to and resist this kind of terrorism. He's going to talk about how you target your enemies and work with your friends. You don't overreach and destabilize countries like the Obama-Clinton administration has done.
Speaking on the same program, former Obama administration CIA Director and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said that Trump needs to lay out the specifics of his plan.
I think what would be appropriate is for Donald Trump, instead of making an outrageous claim that somehow President Obama is the father of ISIS, which is a lie, he ought to present what strategy he would implement to defeat ISIS. Instead, he says he has a secret plan, and nobody knows what that plan is all about.
Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is scheduled to campaign this week in, among other states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and North Carolina, so-called battleground states where the election is likely to be decided. Recent polls show her with slight or growing leads in each of those states. Jeff Custer, VOA News, Washington.
Well, the People's Republic of China's multi-billion-dollar investment in South Sudan's oil infrastructure was meant to provide Beijing with yet another petroleum source and provide it with a place to showcase its influence. But political turmoil on the edge of civil war has prevented China from getting significant returns on its efforts for more than 2.5 years. And now the situation is getting even worse. VOA's Jeffrey Young reports.
South Sudan's political turmoil, heightened in recent days by President Salva Kiir's removal of his key rival, First Vice President Riek Machar, has bloodied the streets of the capital, Juba, and sent even more people fleeing to the safety of United Nations protection camps. Machar's removal and Kiir's replacement of him with their former mediator, Taban Deng Gai, followed Machar's sudden departure from Juba several weeks ago. That effectively collapsed the agreed-upon transitional government that began in April when Machar returned to the capital after fighting erupted in December 2013. That collapse has also impacted China's massive investment in the East African nation's oil sector, prompting the China National Petroleum Corporation, known as CNPC, to evacuate nearly 200 of its people. Because of the conflict, very little oil, now estimated at only 120,000 barrels a day, is presently going to market. One South Sudan first-hand observer describes the tattered oil infrastructure left in the wake of the country's convulsions. Via Skype, journalist Anthony Lowenstein.
Often the facilities don't exist anymore. They need to be rebuilt from the ground up. Who's going to invest in that? Who's going to spend money on that? At the moment, virtually nobody is.
China began investing in Sudan's oil fields before that nation's southern half broke with Khartoum and became independent in 2011. South Sudan's oil still goes through Sudan via pipeline, with Khartoum extracting a transit fee for its passage. China is also making an investment in South Sudan's peace and security. At least 700 Chinese troops are part of the United Nations mission in South Sudan, known by the acronym UNMISS. But these soldiers are not deployed to protect South Sudan's oil fields. They're sheltering civilians in UN-created safe zones. Beijing may be the most capable nation to exert influence in resolving Cuba's shattered political structure, according to Center for Strategic and International Studies Africa Director Jennifer Cook.
They have, in some ways, more leverage than the United States and the international community, in that they kind of have the purse strings of oil production and oil exploration.
Oil revenue is the foundation of South Sudan's economy, and according to observers, has also been key to President Kiir's hold on power. Again, via Skype, Anthony Lowenstein.
Because it's a kleptocracy, the South Sudanese government used that oil revenue to pay off friends and allies to keep on their side. As that oil money has essentially disappeared and dried up, it's become incredibly difficult for South Sudan to remain intact.
Since China has such a large multi-billion-dollar investment in South Sudan's oil industry, one might think that Beijing would aggressively pursue a diplomatic solution to the country's political crisis. But Beijing's special representative on African affairs, Zhang Jinhua, who met with South Sudan's political leadership in early May, publicly maintains China's non-interventionist policy toward African states.
Well, I don't think we are the party to be correct to propose our own initiative, at least at this stage.
Meanwhile, the nation barely functions, with its population often fed by NGOs and partially protected by a UN force, trying to stay out of the crossfire between its heavily armed and angry factions. And observers say that's not likely to change in the foreseeable future. Jeffrey Young, VOA News.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, a Malawian entrepreneur tells the rewards of going back to the earth. Stay with us.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
Well, the time since Britain's shocking decision to leave the European Union has brought a number of surprises. Contrary to predictions, nations, largely those of the British Commonwealth in Africa and the Pacific, have lined up to sign trade agreements with Britain, and economists predict a trade deal with the European Union could be in place within 2 years. VOA Europe correspondent Luis Ramirez reports.
A weak pound has meant for many a chance to see London for the first time.
Okay. It's cheap, very good. I think it's very, very good.
One of Brexit's unforeseen benefits, an 18% rise in foreign visitors. Hotels, airlines, and visitor attractions in London report a dramatic rise in sales and guests, many from Asia, undeterred by fears of terrorism in Europe.
The terrorism, yeah, we understand, but because the pound is quite low now, so it's actually a good time for us to travel to London.
Because now the pound is in a very low rate, it's cheaper for us to buy things or to traveling everywhere, yeah. Yeah, it's a good time to come.
The markets have continued to see volatility after Brexit, which is not a surprise. What is a surprise to some are reports that 27 countries are expressing interest in securing trade deals with Britain. Many of those are Commonwealth nations like Ghana, a former British colony. Economists see opportunity for new trade deals that some believe could change the colonial-era paradigm that has for decades created strange situations where African farmers could sell their unprocessed products to Europe only to re-import them as manufactured goods.
So you have Ghanaian cocoa producers unable to go up the value chain and make chocolate because of the way the tariffs system works with Europe. All of this could be solved to some extent in a relationship with a less distorted UK, less agriculturally distorted UK.
Britain has not negotiated a trade deal on its own since 1973. The British government is rushing to take advantage of the renewed interest from other countries, assembling teams of trade negotiators in the hope Brexit's predicted downturn may actually end up being a boom. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, London.
Well, in Malawi, a 34-year-old university graduate has shunned formal employment in the city for life on the farm, and she's making a name for herself as an agro-entrepreneur. Lamek Masina has more.
This is the 5-acre piece of land Rosie Chisowa hopes will make her dreams come true.
I want to be one of the richest women, not just in Malawi, but in the whole world. That's my dream.
The journey here started 3 years ago when she bought 4 piglets.
And then within 4 months, it multiplied to 45. I saw the piglets, then I started keeping the chickens, and then I took in board the goats. Then with the profits from that, I bought this piece of land.
Her crops included tomatoes, maize and rice. The farm is expanding to vegetables. Rose Farm generates as much as $1,000 in income a month. That's 5 times what Chisowa used to earn in her old job as a journalist and a researcher in the capital, just 30 kilometers away.
I'm able to pay my workers. I'm able to buy fuel for my car. I'm able to pay rent. In fact, I'm building my own house because of agriculture. So with agriculture, you can do anything, just like those people who are in the offices. In fact, maybe you are even better off than those people who are sitting in the air-conditioned offices.
She markets the farm through Facebook, where friends and new customers place orders. Cities have swelled in Africa as youth fled the fields in droves, seeking a better life. But high unemployment has battered those dreams, and subsistence farming remains the norm, leaving people vulnerable in times of drought or crisis. Rose says she's showing people another way.
To us girls, we have learned a lesson that we can progress through agriculture and become even famous and respected among the communities.
She now has 2 full-time employees. People from surrounding villages also perform day labor. It has become a safety net in times of need for as many as 500 households.
I always do piecework here to earn money to pay school fees for my child, who has started in class Form 1.
Rose now plans to revive her animal farm and expand her livestock production. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Nsundwe, Malawi.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a beauty trend that deserves a gold medal. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headline. In Nigeria, a video posted on August 14th shows kidnapped Chibok girls are still alive. Boko Haram asked for a prisoner swap.
I said, obviously, we're going to mess up.
In South Africa, a 51-year-old woman is sentenced to 10 years in prison for kidnapping a newborn baby 20 years ago. In Ghana, President John Mahama starts his re-election campaign with promises of returning the country to prosperity. In Libya, the country's forces continue to fight the Islamic State group in Sirte, limiting the militants to central residential areas. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Now, the physical and mental endurance required for an ultra-marathon in this scorching desert is a daunting challenge for even the most accomplished athletes. But for a blind competitor to run unaccompanied might seem impossible. A veteran of numerous city marathons, when accompanied by a partner, blind British runner Simon Whitcroft teamed up with IBM to develop a smartphone app called eAscot that helped him navigate his way on the last edition of the Sahara Race in Namibia. The app emits a beep that changes pitch if it veers off course. A future version will be incorporated into clothing using touch sensors. Well, next up, the humble donut gets a makeover. At Beverly Hills, Beignet is a glamorous new specialty shop where the donut, or beignet, is as it is known here, has been given a new twist. Beignets were traditionally a square fried donut sold on the streets of New Orleans, but were generally filled with sugar and cinnamon. But here, the likes of ham, bacon, and cheese now fill their centers. The aim is to make them more of a meal than a sugary treat. It's part of the combo dessert trend. These special donuts cost between $7 and $9 for an order of 3. Well, and finally, the Rio Olympics will decide who are the world's best athletes. But now there is fresh competition for the best hands. These many works of art are popping up all over the world, and you may have noticed that they are Rio-themed. Olympic-style designs are appearing on manicures everywhere. It is support for the games at the tips of your fingers. Designs include everything from Olympic rings, medals in the city of Rio to patriotic flags, gold medals, and even palm trees. Nail art is now one of the top 5 most tagged items on all of Instagram and Pinterest. In fact, Instagram has overtaken Facebook as the social media platform of nail art. And that is what is trending today. Well, and that's our show for today. And I'll be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. If you hear this expression, does it really mean a bridge is on fire?
Burning bridges.
So, Jessica quit her job, and before leaving, she told all her coworkers how much she hated them.
Get out. Why would she burn her bridges like that?
Oh, she's known for burning bridges. No one in her last job even talks to her.
Why burn a bridge to someone who could help you later? That's just stupid.
When you burn a bridge, you don't really set fire to anything, but you are doing something dangerous. During wartime, soldiers commonly burned bridges to cut their enemies off from supplies. But burning bridges also meant the soldiers could not retreat. So when you burn a bridge, you cut off contact with people or opportunities you might need later. And that's English in a Minute.